She said it with a smile. My dog is smarter than you. She said it into a live microphone, in front of nearly 50 executives, managers, and board-level guests. And her father, the CEO, laughed. Loudly. Proudly. Like it was the cleverest thing he had heard all weekend. I did not cry. I did not argue. I did not defend myself. I bent down, picked up the shattered glass bottles scattered across the hardwood floor, wiped the water soaking into the rug, stood up, and walked out of the strategy meeting for good. They thought that was the mistake. They were wrong. The real mistake was what happened next, because the only thing keeping their multi-million-dollar furniture empire alive for 11 straight years was locked inside my head, and 10 minutes ago, they humiliated it. My name is Evelyn Parker, and until this afternoon, I was the invisible glue holding Parker and Slate living together. Now I'm standing outside Pine Hollow Lodge without a coat, watching my breath turn into white clouds against the dark mountain sky, feeling freer than I have in over a decade. The cold air bites at my skin, sharp and unforgiving, but it feels better than the suffocating heat of the conference room I just escaped. Inside that rustic timber-framed hall, 47 people are pretending what just happened was funny. They are pretending cruelty is leadership. They are pretending they didn't just laugh at the woman who quietly kept their company alive. It was day 2 of the Parker and Slate Annual Strategy Summit, 3 hours north of the city, isolated in a luxury retreat that cost more per night than most warehouse workers earned in a month. The theme of the weekend was vision and synergy. The reality was heavy drinking, forced team-building exercises, and executives congratulating themselves for profits generated by people they never invited into the room. I wasn't there to strategize. I was there because Gordon Hale, our CEO, insisted someone needed to be available to handle logistics if questions came up. That was always my role. I wasn't there to lead. I was there to fix things quietly so other people could look competent. The afternoon session was led by Blair Hale, 26 years old, newly appointed head of brand strategy, and also Gordon's daughter. She paced the stage in heels completely impractical for the uneven wooden floor, presenting her vision for the Founders Edition, a new ultra-luxury furniture line meant to celebrate the company's heritage. The irony was painful. Blair knew nothing about heritage. She knew Instagram aesthetics, mood boards, and burning through marketing budgets. I sat in the back row with a tablet on my lap, already spotting 5 supply chain disasters in her opening slides alone. Italian marble sourced in 3 weeks. Hand-stitched leather from a tannery with a 6-month waiting list. Delivery dates that would require teleportation, divine intervention, or both. I said nothing. That was my job. Fix it later. Quietly. Invisibly. Blair was mid-sentence, passionately talking about disrupting the living room experience, when she threw her arms wide for dramatic emphasis and misjudged her distance from the side table. Her hand slammed into a cluster of imported glass water bottles. The sound was violent. Glass shattered across the stage. Water sprayed over the hardwood floor and soaked into the expensive rug beneath her feet. Silence fell instantly, heavy and complete. Blair stared down at the mess, annoyed, not embarrassed. Her eyes scanned the room, skipping past assistants, junior staff, and even the facilities team standing near the door. Her gaze landed directly on me. "Pick it up," she said calmly. Not a request. A command. My heart began to pound, slow and heavy. I looked at Gordon Hale in the front row. He knew exactly who I was. He knew I managed relationships with 17 critical vendors. He knew I was the reason the last 3 product launches arrived on time. I waited for him to intervene. He didn't. He just watched, faintly amused, curious to see if I would obey. This wasn't about water bottles. It was a test. I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the floor. I walked down the aisle, telling myself to stay professional, telling myself I had bills to pay, telling myself I had a son depending on this salary. I knelt on the wet stage and started picking up broken glass. That's when Blair leaned toward the vice president of sales, her microphone still live, and said the words that ended everything. "My dog is smarter than her," she said, gesturing loosely in my direction. "At least he comes when I call him without acting like he's doing me a favor." Gordon laughed. A deep, booming laugh, slapping his knee. The room followed his lead. They laughed at me. At the woman kneeling on the floor, quietly saving them again. Something inside me clicked. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a final, irreversible turn of a lock. I stood up slowly. I placed the napkin beside the broken glass. I wiped my hands on my skirt. I turned to face the room. I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just clarity. "Where are you going, Evelyn?" Gordon called out, still smiling. "We're not done here." I didn't answer. I walked toward the back of the room. "If you walk out that door, you're done," he shouted, his voice sharp now, stripped of humor. The door closed behind me. And for the first time in 11 years, so did my silence. Now I'm standing beside my car, the wind cutting through the pines, my phone vibrating nonstop in my pocket. They think I just rage quit. They think I'm emotional. They think this was about an insult. They have no idea what they just lost. To understand why walking away wasn't reckless, but inevitable, you need to understand how I walked into that company 11 years ago in the first place. I was 29, newly divorced, broke, raising a 6-year-old son in a cramped apartment filled with cardboard boxes and unpaid bills. When Parker and Slate offered me the role of vendor relations coordinator, I nearly cried in the HR office. Stability. Health insurance. A paycheck I could rely on. I thought I was joining a system. I was wrong. On my third day, the woman I was replacing, a 63-year-old named Darlene Walsh, pulled me aside and took me to the loading dock. She lit a cigarette, ignored the no-smoking signs, and looked at me like someone delivering a warning. "If you try to do this job by the handbook," she said, "you'll be fired in 3 months." She told me the truth. The company didn't run on contracts. It didn't run on systems. It ran on Gordon's whims. No central database. No real agreements. Just phone calls, favors, and memory. "The supply chain lives here," she said, tapping her temple. I should have run. Instead, I learned. And that choice would make me indispensable, and eventually, dangerous. The drive down the mountain that night was pitch black. The road twisted through pine trees and sharp curves, demanding absolute focus, which felt like mercy. My phone buzzed non-stop on the passenger seat. Gordon calling. HR calling. A few coworkers texting to ask if I was coming back for the morning session. I turned the phone off. The silence that filled the car felt expensive, like something I hadn't been able to afford in years. For the first time in 11 years, I slept without setting an alarm. The next morning, I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I showered, put on my most professional suit, and drove to the office at my usual time. The building was quiet. Most of the executives were still returning from the retreat. Gordon's office door was open. He looked up from his desk, annoyed rather than apologetic. "You made quite a scene last night, Evelyn," he said. "You owe Blair an apology." I didn't sit down. I placed a white envelope on his desk. "I'm not apologizing," I said calmly. "I'm resigning. Effective immediately." He laughed, but it was nervous now. "Don't be dramatic. Take a personal day. We'll talk next week." "I'm not taking a personal day," I said. "I'm done." He opened the letter and went pale. "You can't leave now," he said. We're 6 weeks from launch. You can't just walk away. I looked at him evenly. You can fire me without cause. I can leave without notice. He raised his voice. Miles doesn't know the vendors yet. I smiled, polite and professional. Data is data, I said. He'll be fine. I packed 11 years into 2 cardboard boxes. Photos of my son. A coffee mug. A sweater for over air-conditioned days. I left the files. I left the invoices. I left the sticky notes. I left the company phone. As the elevator doors closed, I saw Miles Caldwell step out, fresh from the retreat, smirking. He thought he'd won. I let the doors close. The calls started immediately. Gordon's voicemails shifted from anger to bargaining to panic. HR threatened my final paycheck. I replied with a photo of the company phone sitting on my empty desk. Then the vendors started calling my personal line. The metal shop in Ohio. The glass facility in Pennsylvania. The textile house in New Mexico. Miles had called them. He'd been arrogant. He'd demanded discounts and faster timelines. He'd treated relationships like vending machines. I gave them one piece of advice, over and over. Get it in writing. Get a deposit. Don't ship without a signed agreement. That advice was professional. It was also lethal to a company that had survived on handshakes and goodwill. By the end of the week, production stalled. Miles sent aggressive legal emails threatening breach of contract. The problem was simple. There were no contracts. Vendors responded by freezing orders and demanding payment on invoices that were 90 days overdue. The Founders Edition didn't slow down. It stopped. Gordon texted me late one night. You're destroying this company over a joke. Fix this. I replied once. I'm not destroying anything. I just stopped saving it. The collapse didn't come quietly. A video from the retreat leaked online. Blair's voice. My silence. Gordon's laugh. It went viral. Hashtags exploded. Customers canceled orders. Retailers pulled out. Investors panicked. Gordon called me, offering money to say it was a joke, to post a statement, to clean up one last mess. I declined. My son watched me hang up. You should ruin them, he said. I shook my head. Winning isn't about stomping, I told him. It's about standing so tall they have to look up. 3 weeks later, a calm voice called my phone. Rowan Pike, CEO of Juniper Bridge Partners. Vendors I'd worked with for years had told him the same thing. That I was the only person who treated them like humans. He offered me a job. Less pay. More sanity. He didn't want me to be the system. He wanted me to build one. Contracts. Ethics. Documentation. Redundancy. A company that could survive without burning people out. I said yes. The irony landed hard when a major retailer canceled Parker and Slate and came to us instead. Same vendors. Same craftsmen. Different values. We delivered on time. We paid up front. We didn't threaten anyone. Parker and Slate sued me for stealing trade secrets. In court, their lawyers admitted there was no database, no non-compete, no contracts. Just my memory. The judge denied the injunction and warned Gordon that a full trial would expose every unpaid invoice. The lawsuit disappeared. Miles called me once after he was fired. He asked how I'd done it. I told him the truth. Small talk isn't inefficiency. It's the job. He didn't argue. Blair called too. She apologized. I didn't forgive her. I told her to learn. To listen. To earn it. Months later, Rowan slid an equity agreement across his desk. I don't want you to ever be invisible again, he said. I signed. That night, I took my son to dinner. He quoted the insult back to me and shook his head. What a stupid thing to say. I smiled. A dog can learn a trick, I said. Respect takes intelligence. I didn't burn their world down. I simply walked away and built a better one. And that was enough. Thank you for listening to Evelyn's story. If you've ever been underestimated, humiliated, or treated like you were invisible at work, I'd love to hear your experience. Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. If this story resonated with you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next story. Sometimes the strongest revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's living well.